Welcome to another episode of Low Gear Revisited. This story is about the building of the power stations, the canals and the dams that start from Lake Tekapo and head on to Lake Benmore and on down the Waitaki River. I have a chat to Max Lai of Twila, who remembers the days of the project. So to kick this off, we're going to start with our own Brendan Dugan singing Flow On Again Waitaki.
Rippling waters of Waitaki, sing a song of proud of me. Sing of tall distant mountains, Ganges lake so free. Tell of how the men have tamed you, hear the giant turbines roar. Listen to your warders laughing at the penstocks at Benmore. So flow on again Waitaki, on your journey to the sea. Making power for all New Zealand, little life for folks like me. When Benmore Lake you fill and the generators spin, flow on again, great river, till another works run. I'll flow down through the valley where the cattle graze no more, where a dam is in the making in a place called Benmore. So flow on again Waitaki, on your journey to the sea. Making power for all New Zealand, little life for folks like me. On again, big river, as your hydro work is done, and another lake is foaming to reflect the setting sun. As you run beneath the bridges, you will hear the seagulls cry, see the waving of the willows as you pass them swiftly by. So flow on again Waitaki, on your journey to the sea. Making power for all New Zealand, little life for folks like me. Now listen, surging waters, as you reach Pacific shores, and you're meeting with the breakers, makes the ocean roar. Now when all tomorrows, when your turbine you will play, and praise the great Waitaki, you will hear the people say. So flow on again Waitaki, on your journey to the sea. Making power for all New Zealand, little life for folks like me.
Behind me is the Waitaki River, and feeding this Waitaki River is a few lakes. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up to a place called Twila and talk to the men who were part of a thing they called the project, which was the power board at the time building power stations through a series of canals. So we're going to go up there, talk to a man called Max Lai, who was part of that project, and another man called Mike Higgins. Both of them have got machines that were used up there at the time. So if you worked on the project, maybe you'll find this entertaining. Twila was formed in 1968 as a temporary town to house workers and others for the building of the hydroelectric canals and power stations that formed what was to be termed the project. At the end of the project, the town was destined to be dismantled, moved off-site, returning it to the tussock plains it was built on. But people like Mac Smith, the Ministry of Works chief engineer, fought to have the town remain, and Twila today is a bustling community, and remnants of the project are on display as you enter the town. Just to give you an idea of how the project works, it starts at Lake Tekapo and goes to the power station at a place called Tekapo A, Tekapo B, and from there it flows into Lake Pukaki, and from Lake Pukaki it goes back into the canals to Ohau A, which is joined by Lake Ohau, and from there it goes through a power station and onto Ohau B, another power station, down to Ohau C, into Lake Benmore, Then from Lake Benmore it goes through the Benmore Dam, on down to the Aviemore Dam, and finally the Waitaki Dam, and then the water flows out to sea. So starting from Lake Tekapo, they go through 8 power stations all the way down to Waitaki. And the Waitaki Dam was started in 1928, completed in 1934, and the project was started in 1968 and wasn't completed until the 1980s. Now just before we have a chat to Max, I just need to tell you that all the machines that he has, he's restored, all by himself. Max, you were telling me before that this is a very rare Caterpillar tractor, and it's quite unique. Perhaps you could just tell me a bit about this.
Yes, well, how I come to get hold of it, there was a chap here running a crushing plant for downers, and he said to me when he was over at my place and looking at the tractors, and he said, "Do you want another tractor?" And I said, "Well, yeah, Bill, yeah, I wouldn't mind." And he said, "Oh, well, there's one down in Dunedin at the yard. Go down and have a look at it and see what you think. And if you want it, we'll even cart it up here for you." The trucks going backwards and forward. Yeah. And so I go down there, and this old girl was sitting in the yard and in real bad shape on a bit of a lean like this. And I said, "Yeah, Bill, yeah, I'd love to get hold of that, because I know that there was only about 4, I think, came to New Zealand back in the early days." And so we got hold of that. They brought it home for me, and we've got her back into shape, not too bad. There's still a bit to do with it. And the history of it is that I've heard, and I've read a bit of a story about some of Downer's old tractors and where they worked. And I've put 2 and 2 together and think pretty sure that this was one of Arnold Downer's early tractors.
So Arnold Downer started the company when, roughly? In the 30s?
Oh, well, it must be down in the 30s, yeah.
Wow.
And he did have, I've got some photos in an old book about them working up in that big power station was put in way up in the top end of the island. In from, I forget the name of the place now.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of these there at the time.
To restore a machine like this must take hours. I mean, everything is heavy.
Oh, sure.
It's not like restoring a car with little bits of, but this is a machine. This is, even these plates.
There's
a bit of weight to them.
There's a bit of weight in them. Yeah.
So it must be an absolute major to set off. And this is only one of, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 sitting here that you've restored.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a credit to you. You're not getting any younger like me, and as you get older, of course, things start getting heavier. Have you ever noticed that, folks?
Yeah.
I used to be able to pick 2 of these up,
Yeah, I could grab, in fact, I could take 2 or 3 of those and just walk away with it. Now there's just, but it was pretty sad that all back in here, all that was all flopping around in the sprocket, but we've managed to.
And that's just the original Caterpillar engine that was in it.
Yep. And that's the size of that engine is sort of like half that D8 motor.
Right, I noticed with crawler tractors that they've all got the fuel tank sort of just bolted on the frame, like the D8 over there. It's behind the seat, and that's where a lot of them were, of course. So,
that's right. Yeah.
But wherever it's suitable, bang, off it goes. So there's no rhyme or reason where the fuel tank is. It's
that's
just
right.
where you can fit it. So what did this actually? Well, you don't know it belonged to Downers, but. Would have just been part of making the roads and that sort of thing?
I'm not sure whether it ever had a blade on it, but it did. There is a winch, a double drum winch, what they call a double drum. There's 2 drums in it. It's in the back there, but that was on it.
Oh, okay.
Whether they used that in cable work and stuff like that. You know.
Sure. Would this have had, if it had a blade, would this have had cable blades or hydraulics?
Oh, the old cable ones.
Yeah. So that's
yeah.
it's that old.
Yeah.
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 What have we got here?
Well, that's a D2. That's quite about a 1953 model.
Is this the model that your average farmer would have had if he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just
And you know this model was getting towards the end of where they cut them off. They stopped building.
Oh, okay.
But they're a very reliable and very popular machine. And it had been well looked after, actually, this one. It came from right down the bottom too, the bottom end of Southland.
And that's where you spent a lot of your time?
Yeah,
your
quite a
jobs?
bit of my time, yeah.
As I was saying, if you look back here, it's got an air cleaner.
That's a dust jar, that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the bigger parts of the dust get exit into that. You can just screw that off.
And empty it out.
And that's just an AG fruit jar, and that has got a serial number.
Really?
Caterpillar serial number for one of those. But the same thing, an AG jar. You've got the wrong thing if you try and screw anything else on there.
I just noticed your little cans here, just to stop the
Oh yeah,
the
when
moisture
you're
going
there's
down, but a lot of
exhaust-
them had the little lid, like up on the
Yeah, sure.
shot up and bounced away for the day.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what a baked bean tin will do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see you got your little starter motor,
That's the starter motor there, yeah.
and you just start that with a cord, or
You pull it
is it on the other side?
Just wind on
Oh, there. Oh, okay, yeah,
onto the
yeah.
flywheel there.
We saw one of these that was made up into a track excavator. Had a lifter on the front, and that's what he had to do. Put the rope around it,
Right, yeah.
fire it up, and then that boom, way that way. Yeah.
If everything's going right, the first, second or third pull should start.
Yeah, should start, but it's like an outboard motor that's temperamental. You know, you can sort of lose your temper. Blast it thing, come on!
There's someone else down there, give me a go, you know.
Oh, you can wear yourself out pretty quick. Yeah. And so did you ever operate one of these yourselves as part of what you did?
Oh yeah. I've done quite a bit of work with D2s, you know.
With a blade or
No, we're just a towing machine.
Yeah. Next door we've got the monster of its time.
It was, yeah.
The D8.
And that one, along with about 7 or 8 others, all came to New Zealand out of the islands
Oh, really?
at the Second World War. And they all came with the army green in colour.
Yeah.
And like the Ministry of Works bought boatloads of them home after the war. And we've got the consecutive serial numbers of that one and the rest of the 8 of them. Yeah.
Wow.
But,
So at the time, of course, just after all, it's hard to get anything, really, isn't it?
oh yeah.
So there's 8 of these things sitting in the islands doing
Yeah,
nothing. So the
yeah.
government
They're ready
agents
to
have been
go.
there going, oh, you all have those.
Yeah.
Don't care what they cost. We've got dams to build. We've got roads to build. Let's get on with
That's right.
it. Yeah.
And like it's only in recent years that those old D8s, the old one's still pushing around somewhere.
And the blades, were they bladed?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you-
That
and
had
the cables.
that had a blade on with a cable, and the winch. It had a front winch on the front of the motor, and quite a big frame up over the top, where the blocks for the rope went on.
Yep.
But it was everything was like this, and I thought, get rid of it all. I just
Let's have a look.
just brought her out as a bare machine.
Max, is this a bit like coming home for you?
Oh sure, look, I could spend every day of the rest of my life on this old thing. You wouldn't get me off it.
No.
That's your clutch.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That's your go and stop. These are the steering levers, which aren't too bad. Now the latest ones is just little things like this, you know. But that's the
Give me
steering.
the real thing.
And a sharp turn, you use that brake and this clutch. She'd swing
So
around.
this is just full time, and the other ones you
Yeah,
dig a big hole on the side there, just about.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the gear shift there.
And it just goes sideways into those little slots.
Yeah, yeah.
How many gears has it got? 6? Oh no.
Six forward. 1, 2, 3. There's only one reverse on these ones.
Oh, okay. So in 6th gear, what are you doing? I mean, you don't change it. You start off in 6th gear, do you? Or do you?
Oh no, that's
You
all
have to actually
depends
be
what
moving.
you're on. You've got
So it says 1, 3,
One, two,
HR, and then it says LR.
yeah,
Low range, high
low
range.
range, low high range.
Right.
When everything's nice and free, that's quite easy to slide right across, and you've got the other set there. You know?
Right.
So there's 6 sections.
So it's all off on just on one gear stick, and that's the throttle next to it.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Full revs at, what do they run at? 800 or something, I think it is. Not real fast. Yeah.
So forward is slowing down, and towards you is speeding up.
Yeah,
Right.
that's full throttle there.
Yeah, yeah. And this, I seem to remember they had just one big bench seat right across
Yeah,
on this.
yep,
Yeah.
that was it.
And what about the dust?
Well,
You just got on with it.
you just put up with it.
What about your ears and ear muffs? You would have got called a
You
sissy.
never got on around with any of those. That's why I've got to have these now.
But if you'd put something on your ears, you would have been called a sissy, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah,
Look at
yeah,
this bloody
yeah,
wimp.
just really around
Yeah,
things
what
like
sort of
that on
bloke's
these.
he?
But they're not a noisy machine. They're very, very
Yeah.
smooth runners. And
Yeah. And it's a Caterpillar engine.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
all catered, the whole lot of it. Mm.
I just see there's a couple of levers on the down in front of you. I guess that's
That's the starter motor down there.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah. And when you started, when you sort of first got on one of these things, you would have just been, wow, this bloody big thing. Hope I can do
Yeah,
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started when I was talking to you about the old International that my mate's got, the old T35. It was a wee bit bigger than that D2, but I thought I was made. Dad would let me have a go at this whole thing, and I pulled a lot of logs for that old tractor, and that was my starter.
So this is, Twisdale here is called the project.
Mm,
Yeah. And were you working
that's right.
on one of these?
Yep.
Yeah. And what was the project?
Well, that sort of covered everything on the whole job.
And the job was to sort of make some.
cuttings and fillings and
Oh, okay.
all that sort of
To
thing.
make the water flow from
Yeah.
point A to point B to get it to a
Yeah.
power station.
Yeah,
And that was the Ministry of Works
that's
project.
the Ministry of Works tractor.
The project.
The project.
How many guys would have been working with you?
There's quite a few hundred.
Oh, okay. So she's a big job.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this, you got on the same machine every day. You didn't just sort of take the nearest one or anything. It was your machine.
Oh, you pretty much, see, a lot of the tractors were hired in. They were outside contractors. The ministry had a lot themselves,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of private contractors with D8s and D9s here, and yeah.
Hi everyone. My new book, Talking Trucks, is now available. I'll just read you what Alex McClellan of McClellan Freight in Balclutha had to say in the foreword. This book is the result of many miles travelled, many people met, and many vehicles and machines documented. As people pass on, their stories go with them. So it was great that Bill and Linda could document their stories, not only for their historic value to New Zealand, but also to the families of the people who took the time to pass it on through Bill's shows. I think this book goes some way to honouring that responsibility. Thank you, Alex. I also spoke to Gavin Abbott, and Gavin, as you know, is an author himself, written something like 6 or 7 or 8 trucking books, and he said, well, Bill, as you know, I've read a few trucking books in my time, but I have to tell you that this book is up there with the best of them. So there you go. If you'd like to get your copy, the easiest way is to go to our webpage at www.lowgear.co.nz or flick me an email, billhoheper@extra.co.nz, or perhaps even just give me a call, 027 277 0717, and we can sort out the details. Jenner's Worldwide Freight. They provide simplified, custom-built solutions to your supply chain needs. Their 37 years of experience and their team of experts find the answers to your freight challenges. They work hard to understand what matters most to you and your clients. Check them out at www.jenners.co.nz. That's www.jenners.co.nz.
This is a Tornapole, one of the first motor scrapers to come into production, built by Detune, and it's just a step up from the original toad scoops. The back half is the toad scoop, as we knew them, pulled by a crawler tractor, and then to up the speed of them for production, Detune come up with this concept of putting wheels on them. And
you see some of these same machines, but international they might be, but they've got 4 wheels.
Oh yes, yeah, there's one over in the village there. They were usually designed for longer cart, better riding. It all depends on the size of the job, really.
Sure, so tell me about Tornapole. Is that a company previous to, when did they start?
Detune was a contractor in America, and he was sort of one of the first to come up with the concept of using a crawler tractor to push a bit of dirt with a bit of steel plate in front of a tractor.
Yep.
Then he found that he could pull more dirt than he could push, and so he started doing that, pulling the dirt. The dirt, of course, went round the wings, so he put wings on it, and then he put floors in it, and come up with ways to lift it up and down and tip the dirt out of it.
So this is sort of the late 30s?
Yes, yeah, back into the 20s and 30s.
Okay, gee.
Yeah.
There's some great minds out there, when you think about all the things that have been invented, you know, somebody's come up with a concept like this,
Yeah.
and then it's other people have picked it up and improved and improved.
Well, because that's how everything develops. It's the concept of the first man that comes up with the idea, and as soon as people see what it is, they improve it, you know.
Sure.
This D6 here was my father's first D6. Came out of the Pacific at the end of the Second World War. It was built for the American forces in 41, shipped into the Pacific. Most probably went in there to build airstrips by pulling a carriole. It only had a Buckeye winch on the back of it, no blade. My father picked this up, as I say, after the end of the war. They brought a lot of the machinery out and had it in paddocks around Wellington, and contractors could go there and buy whatever they needed. That's when Gillies got all the GMC trucks and sold them for years around Oamaru.
So this is 1941. It's getting back there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And just tell me, how Caterpillar came about in the first place.
Well, Caterpillar was originally started in 1925 from 2 guys, one called Holt and the other one called Best. And they ended up fighting one another over patent rights and got themselves into all kinds of financial trouble. And their bankers said to them in the finish that they wouldn't back them if they continued with this. So they got them to join together and put their ideas together and created the Caterpillar Tractor Company in 1925.
So the name Caterpillar, is that just somebody seeing a caterpillar sort of crawling along? Oh, we'll call them caterpillars.
Most probably something like that, Bill. But the first ones they made, the Holt ones, were some of the smaller versions. Best seemed to build a bit bigger tractors, but as the years moved on, they amalgamated their ideas together and built a full range of tractors.
Because when you think of tractors, their opposition is, International Harvester, Glee Track, Oliver, the list goes on and on and on.
Oh, yes, it does. But they were all watching one another, and a lot of them were buying different groups that had come up with some concept. So if you see International Harvester, as far as graders in the early days, they called them galleons, and their loaders they called Hoff, and they all sort of were buying parts of one another to continue the ideas.
Wow. And then the Japanese even get in the act,
at a later date,
in modern times, yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Wonder what they copied.
Well, they were all copying one another, and this D6 was the start of building the ponds at Lake Grasmere, just south of Seddon. And then he come through to the original Pukaki Dam and carted the core material into that dam. Then went through to Nightcaps in Southland, stripping coal. Ben Moore was just starting, so he brought in some Caterpillar scrapers, and my generation and the family, we started in 1960 at the early days of Ben Moore.
You would have thought you had a job forever. When you look at that huge project, day after day after day, were they 24 hours going there or just long days?
Not always. Some of the concrete pours on that, different concepts of it were a thing. But in actual fact, we were only working at Ben Moore for about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Then we started to filter down to Aviemore that was built in the shadows of Ben Moore. It's a marvellous river, the Waitaki River, and it's interesting to follow its concept from the first dam built down at Waitaki in the 1920s. And then the government of the day come up and built a power station at Tekapo, and that water run just straight down into what was formed at a later date, the Benmore Lake. Pukaki was a dam, earth dam built there to just hold more water back and get better control. And that's where my father came to in 47 and carted into that dam.
Wow.
And then Ohau wasn't allowed to be raised, but for this upper Waitaki they did control it, and they amalgamated those waters from Tekapo, Pukaki and Ohau, and then formed a new lake just down from Ohau called Ruatanapa.
So go on again, Waitaki, on your journey to the sea.